we are here to celebrate two things. First of all, the book, The Vulture's Lair. And we have our distinguished author, Hallur here, who will address you in a moment. And then we are here to launch the No campaign against Europe. Iceland is not going into the European Union. And we are seeking good advice from you, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you would have a referendum here in this country, 70%, like in Iceland, would say no. I won't speak much longer because there are a great many far more better speakers than I am. We have Bill Cash, who we everybody know as a sound European, and we're gonna sort of look into his good factory of ideas when we start our formal campaign in Iceland. And it's a great pleasure to have you here. And Austin Mitchell from Grimsby, which we all know, a Labour MP and a good European also, against, of course, the federalization of Europe. But it is my pleasure to introduce Hallur Hallsson. Hallur is one of our most well-known journalists and author in Iceland, and he wrote this book. And let me tell you what Daniel Hannan said about this book, because we know that what Daniel Hannan reads, he throws it out of the window, or he says something like this. It's in the front here. Here it is. Let's see it. The best book to have come out of Iceland since the Nobel Prize-winning independent people. Better in some ways, because it's one really in favor of Iceland as being independent people. Dan Hannan, member of the European Parliament. So it's a must-buy and a must-read. But Hallur Hallsson, the floor is yours.
Coming from Iceland, where we have the world's oldest parliament. Our two nations, we are islanders, it binds us together, and I often think that the Icelandic and the English mentality are the same. It's the islander, independent and proud people. But like Jón said, 70% of Icelanders are opposed to joining the euro, yet the socialist government in Iceland is going ahead. It's forcing Iceland into euro. And how is this possible? Especially when you bear in mind, and that basically is one of the themes, the backgrounds of Vulture's Lair, is Iceland's history. This is a historical novel. It's a futuristic novel, and it also is a historical novel of Iceland's proud history. When you think of it, there are some 1100 years since Iceland was settled, and they sailed to all the known world at that time. They discovered America, they settled in Greenland, and they sailed, of course, to the United Kingdom, to Scandinavia, to Kiev, and to all the known world, those Vikings. And they wrote, at that time, the most incredible literature, which made Iceland one of the cultural centers of the world. But then we ran out of ships. And yeah, amazingly enough, we ran out of ships. And we bowed to the King of Norway, who had that great Snorri Sturluson killed. And then, as Norway collapsed, unbelievably, Norway collapsed like a house of cards within a century. We were sort of moved to Copenhagen. And you must remember that during those years, during the centuries, the great German states were part of the Danish kingdom. And it was quite a powerful state, Denmark. And we became Denmark's, a Danish-German colony. A Danish-German colony. And the Europeans started exploiting our fishing grounds. And while that was happening, the islanders, like all colonies, or most of them, they lost their sense of dignity, respect for themselves, and while at one of the world's most fertile fishing grounds, they were starving on that island. They were starving. Incredibly, incredible. But then fate smiled to Iceland, and that was because the Danish state collapsed. The Germans, Bismarck, of course, the great Bismarck, the German states, they joined the German Reich at that time, could say. And Iceland started looking to other parts of the world. We started looking to, especially at that point in time, to the United Kingdom. And then you came, of course, in 1940, and within a year, Churchill was in Reykjavik, the only prime minister ever to come to Reykjavik, incredibly enough, the only prime minister. And what did Mr. Churchill do in Reykjavik? For the first time, he put up the V sign.
Oh.
That was in August 1941. And the Americans had come to Iceland. And Churchill was feeling more confident at that point in time. And so Iceland became one of the world's most powerful states. We managed, brief moment in time, we managed to get our pride back, and we managed to get our independence, and we got our natural resources back, that is the fishing banks, and we were proud. We were one of the most, incredibly enough, we went to war with Britain, but that was because of the Cold War, we could do that. And the Americans slapped on your fingers and said, don't go to war with Iceland. Anyway, then during the Cold War, these were happy years in Iceland, but then the Soviet empires collapsed, the Americans went away, and we are back in Europe's back garden, and incredibly enough, it's unbelievable to think of it, that now that we are in negotiations with the bureaucrats in Brussels, they say, hey guys, you have to hand back the fishing banks. And this is total madness. This is what they are saying. And no wonder the Icelanders are opposed to it, but you never know. And they are putting up propaganda offices in Reykjavik and in Akureyri. And they'll be putting a lot of money into the Yes campaign, probably next year. So the Vulture, this is the one background of the Vulture. Another very important theme in the Vulture is this, you could say, Orwellian touch, so to speak. And the future state and what's happening, the trend, what's happening in Europe, and Krumme's theory of what happened in Europe in the 20th century, which he claims is the no theory. The no theory. It's a special kind of mindset that is trying and is always trying to force people, how do you say it, under the wings, trying to control people. It's the authoritarian mind, the authoritarian mindset. And Krumme is thinking a lot about this mindset. He puts forward his Snae theory, and you have to read about it in the book. It's an honor being here. We have a short video of the background of this story. Some of the critics say it's a horror story. It's a thriller. That's true. And it's true that Krumme is thinking a lot about Orwell's thought. Orwell's, as you know, in the Spanish Civil War, he clashed with the communists, and he was thinking a lot about this communist mind. And Krumme has a theory of his own, what this communist mind is, what this authoritative mind is, what this mindset that always, at all times, wants to control people.